My neighbor insisted I let her build a shed over my property line, since it's just a few inches. When I refused, she built it anyway and painted it to match my house. She smiled and said, "It blends right in." I took her to court and said, "Let's see how well it blends in from your yard." This one still gets me heated, and it's not over yet. I'm writing this because I need to vent and share how ridiculous people can be when they think rules don't apply to them. I'll try to be clear and to the point, but there's a lot to unpack here. I've lived in my current home for 16 years. Quiet area. Small town outside of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Houses are decently spaced out. We all have decent-sized backyards. My street is made up of older folks, working-class families, and a few retirees. It's not a gated community or anything, but people generally respect boundaries here, literally and figuratively. That is, until my neighbor moved in. Let's call her Debbie. She bought the house next to mine 2 years ago. It's a bit of a fixer-upper. She's single, probably in her mid-50s, and very into DIY everything. You know the type. She's always out there with tools, building something, painting something, or making loud phone calls to contractors about wood deliveries or siding colors. I didn't think much of it at first. She kept to herself. We said hello in passing. I figured she was trying to get her property into shape, which I respected. Then she knocked on my door one afternoon in early spring. She was polite enough at first. Said she had this plan to build a shed in her backyard and wanted to talk to me about it. I invited her to the porch to talk. She brought out her little notebook with sketches and pictures of what she had in mind. It looked like a decent-sized storage shed, maybe 10 by 12 feet, with a sloped roof and a little window. She pointed to where she wanted to place it. Right up near the back corner of her property, except that corner wasn't actually hers. It was mine. I told her I didn't think that was her land. She smiled and said, "Oh, I know it's technically a few inches over the property line, but it's not going to be in the way. It won't even be noticeable." I was stunned. She was straight up telling me she wanted to build the shed partially on my land. Not just near the line. Over the line. On my side. I told her no. Firm but polite. I said, "Look, I'm sorry, but I'd rather you keep it on your property. Even if it's just a few inches, that's still over the line. I don't want anything built on my land." She looked disappointed but said okay. "I understand," she said. "It was worth asking." I thought that was the end of it. It wasn't. A few weeks later, I go away for a long weekend. My son had a baseball tournament out in Ohio, and I drove out with my wife to stay overnight. We were gone Friday through Sunday. When we got back Sunday night, I pulled into the driveway and immediately noticed something odd in the backyard. There it was. The shed. Half-built. Frame up. No walls yet, but the structure was standing. And just like she had described, right up on the line, and clearly encroaching on my side. I walked to the backyard with my jaw open. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I measured it. It was 13 inches over my property line. I have the land surveyed and marked from a few years ago when I had a fence replaced, so I knew exactly where the line was. This wasn't even close. It was a clear and obvious violation. I knocked on her door. She opened it smiling like nothing was wrong. Me. "Hey. I thought we talked about the shed." Debbie. "Yes. Isn't it coming along nice?" Me. "It's over the property line." Debbie laughs a little. "Barely. It's just a bit. I made sure it's facing away from your yard so it doesn't bother you." Me. "Debbie, that's not okay. It's on my land. We agreed you wouldn't do this." Debbie. "Well, I didn't agree. I said I understood. And honestly, I just figured since it's not really affecting you, it wouldn't be a problem." She said this like it was totally normal to take someone else's land if it was. Just a bit. I told her again, flat out, "Move it. I don't care how far along it is. It's not staying on my land." She rolled her eyes and said she'd think about what to do. That night I wrote up a formal letter and delivered it the next morning. It wasn't a legal notice, but it clearly stated she did not have permission to use any part of my property, and I was asking her to immediately stop construction and remove the frame. No response. 3 days later, I came home from work and the shed was finished. Walls up. Door on. Window installed. Painted to match my house. I kid you not. Same color. Same shade of gray-blue. Same white trim. Same shingle color on the roof. She did it intentionally. I walked around it stunned. She even landscaped around the base with the same river rocks I used on my side yard. I went straight to her door. I was shaking. Me. "Why did you paint your shed to look like my house?" Debbie. Because it looks better that way. It blends in. You barely notice it. Me. That's not the point. It's still on my property. Debbie. I honestly think you're making a big deal out of nothing. It looks nice. It's not blocking anything. You don't even use that strip of yard. That was the moment I knew I was going to court. I didn't respond to her after that. I stopped trying to reason with her. I took photos. I dug up my survey. I contacted a real estate lawyer and explained everything. He was as surprised as I was, especially when he saw the photos of how it looked like an extension of my house. Within a week, my lawyer drafted a cease and desist. She was served. Her reaction? She posted a rant on the neighborhood Facebook group, claiming I was attacking her and trying to ruin her hard work over a meaningless sliver of grass. She called me petty. Said I was jealous of her creativity. Claimed I was the kind of person who can't stand seeing someone improve their life. But she never denied it was over the line. Not once. Instead, she doubled down. She installed solar lights around it. Planted a flower bed in front. Started storing her lawnmower and bins in it like everything was fine. Every day I came home and saw that shed standing there, matching my house like some bizarre growth, I got angrier. At this point, the court date is approaching. We're going full civil suit. I have all the evidence. Photos. Timeline. Survey. Cease and desist letter. Even screenshots of her Facebook posts. And I've got a very clear plan of what I'm going to say when I take the stand. I'll end the story here for now. But let's just say, Debbie's going to find out the hard way what happens when you think a few inches doesn't matter. A week before the court date, I was out in the backyard just staring at that shed. My lawyer had told me not to talk to her anymore, not even about the weather. So I didn't. But every time I looked at that structure, a weird mix of rage and disbelief settled in my chest. It was painted exactly like my house. Not just the walls, but the trim. The same color of gutter paint. Even the hardware on the shed door matched my back door. I found out later from a neighbor that she literally went to the hardware store with a picture of my house and asked them to help her match it perfectly. She was making it look like it belonged to me. I started worrying about things I hadn't thought of before: insurance liability, someone getting hurt on my shed, taxes, what it could mean for resale value down the line. My lawyer had already warned me. You can't let this slide. You'll regret it later. Then the twist came. 3 days before court, I got a knock on the door around 6 a.m. Still dark outside. I opened it half asleep and there were 2 guys in hard hats and safety vests standing on my porch. One of them says, "We're here for the utility access under the structure." I'm like, "What structure?" He points behind me. "The shed." I tell them, "That's not my shed. That's hers." The taller guy checks his clipboard. "Permit says otherwise." "It was approved under this address." I felt something drop in my stomach. I told them to wait and called my lawyer immediately. He told me not to let them start anything and to get a copy of the permit if I could. I told the crew to leave, and they didn't argue, probably smelled the legal mess a mile away. Turns out, Debbie had submitted a permit application for the shed under my address. She used my house number and my last name. She claimed she was acting as the homeowner and just needed it for temporary storage while landscaping. The permit was processed without a site visit, something the township sometimes does for small structures under a certain square footage. This wasn't just a property line issue anymore. It was fraud. That changed everything. My lawyer's tone changed too. What was supposed to be a quiet civil hearing just exploded into something bigger. We notified the township. I sent them photos, my survey, proof of ownership, and the timeline of what happened. I also attached a screen recording from the Facebook group where she was claiming I was attacking her shed. The township sent a building inspector 2 days later. He showed up, walked the yard with me, and said, "Oh yeah? This thing's illegally placed. And on top of that, it's not up to code." He said it failed 3 code checks just by glancing at it: roof pitch, foundation issues, and no water drainage setup. He taped a red violation sticker right on the front. That made Debbie explode. She came out screaming. I wasn't even saying anything, just standing there with the inspector. "Debbie, what the hell is this?" "Inspector, this is a stop work and removal order." "Debbie, this is private property." "Inspector, exactly. His property." She looked at me like I just murdered her puppy. Then, and I'll never forget this, she shouted, "You'll pay for this." I'm not done yet. Later that day, I started getting weird anonymous messages on Facebook. Stuff like, "Hope your windows don't break," and you better watch your yard. All from burner accounts with no photos or names. That was it. I installed motion sensor cameras around the perimeter of my house. Bought them that night. Set them up the next day. Got extra lights for the yard too. And then, on a rainy Friday night, I caught her. She walked into my yard, 11:42 p.m., and dumped a full bag of yard waste, leaves, branches, sod, right at my back door. Like right on the steps. Then she tried to smear something, looked like paint or mud, on my back doorknob. I had her on video from 3 different angles. I called the cops. They showed up, I handed them the footage, they went to her house. 10 minutes later, I see her being escorted into the back of the squad car, yelling something about how I was ruining her life, over a little misunderstanding. They didn't book her, just held her long enough to file a report and formally warn her. But that wasn't even the end of it. 2 days before the court hearing, I woke up to find flyers all over my mailbox and some of my neighbors' doors. Printed flyers. With a headline that said, "Don't trust your neighbor. He's suing over a shed." It had a picture of the shed and a whole rant about how I was trying to destroy a single woman's dream, and using legal muscle to ruin someone over a few inches of dirt. She actually printed these out. In color. Folded them neatly. And distributed them like some kind of righteous political campaign. My phone started blowing up. Some neighbors supported me, saying she was unhinged. Others asked if it was true. A few told me they thought I was being harsh. One guy asked me if I could just let her keep the shed to be a good neighbor. No. Absolutely not. What none of them knew is she forged documents, got caught trespassing, and tried to smear my house to make hers look better. I didn't respond to any of it publicly. But I had all the pieces now. And in 2 days we were heading to court. That shed might have looked like it belonged to me, but the truth was about to come out. So after the flyers went around, I kept a low profile. I didn't respond. I didn't escalate. My lawyer said, "Let the facts speak in court. Don't engage." So I stayed quiet. I just kept documenting everything. The shed. The cameras. Her behavior. I even started writing a daily log. The kind of log judges love. 2 days before the court hearing, I saw something new on the shed window. A small curtain rod with tiny floral curtains. The kind you'd see in a grandma's kitchen. That night, a string of fairy lights around the roofline. Solar powered. Flickered on around 7:45 p.m. Then the kicker came. The next morning, a friend from across town sent me a message with a screenshot. A listing on a local Facebook group. Charming backyard studio in a quiet neighborhood, $89 per night. Private tiny home behind a beautiful gray-blue house. Access to backyard garden, nature sounds, and peaceful vibes. I nearly dropped my phone. She was trying to rent the shed out as an Airbnb. The pictures in the post were strategically framed so you couldn't tell it was a shed, or that it was built on someone else's land. There were candles, pillows, a rug, a tiny bookshelf, and a kettle. One caption said, "Perfect for artists or solo travelers seeking a serene escape." I was speechless. I forwarded the listing to my lawyer. He said it actually worked in our favor. It now proved she wasn't just stubborn, she was monetizing the invasion. But it got weirder. 2 nights later, someone showed up in a Toyota Prius and knocked on my back door with a suitcase. Said she had a reservation. I told her to wait and called the police. Turns out, Debbie told the guest to enter through my yard. Let me repeat, she told her Airbnb guest to enter through my backyard. She never told them it wasn't her land. She claimed the main house belonged to a friend who was away. When the cops came, the guest left. Confused and embarrassed. Debbie tried to deny everything. Claimed she was hosting a friend. But I had screenshots, timestamps, and proof of the listing. I had video of the guest walking through my gate, rolling a suitcase. This was no longer petty. This was layered. She built a shed on my land. Fake permit paperwork. Matched it to my house to make it look like an extension. Tried to rent it out. Told strangers to walk into my backyard. Then she claimed I was harassing her. Because here's the next twist. That same night, I got a visit from a local police officer. Said there had been a report of ongoing harassment and intimidation filed by her. She claimed I was stalking her property, filming her without consent, and spreading lies online. She included screenshots of neighborhood group posts, not made by me, and even printed out anonymous comments from fake accounts that she said were clearly connected to me. But she didn't stop there. She also filed for a temporary protection from abuse order, a PFA, which, if granted, would restrict my movements and potentially delay the court hearing. Her whole goal was to make it look like I was the problem. Thankfully, I had my logs, camera footage, and the advice of a very good lawyer. I showed the officer everything. He actually chuckled at the footage of her smearing mystery gunk on my doorknob. The officer didn't arrest me. Didn't file charges. But the fact she tried to flip the script? That was her final mistake before court. The judge was about to see the whole mess. And at that point, I was no longer looking for just removal or a fine. I was going for damages, legal fees, and whatever else my lawyer thought we could legally hit her with. The shed was still standing. The Airbnb listing was removed, but not before screenshots spread. The neighborhood was now whispering behind curtains. And Debbie? Still acting like I was the one out of line. There was just one more twist before the hearing, one that came from someone I didn't expect, her contractor. Out of nowhere, I got a letter in my mailbox. Handwritten. No return address. It was from the guy she hired to build the shed. He said he was backing out of all future work with her, and that he wanted me to know she told him it was all approved. She said she had an agreement with me and that the land was hers by extension, since the yard wasn't fenced. He said he didn't want to be dragged into legal trouble, so he was stepping forward quietly in case I needed to subpoena him. He also said one last thing. She planned to connect it to your electrical panel next. Said it would be easier than running her own. She wanted to tie into my electricity. She wanted her little illegal Airbnb to run off my power meter. That was it. We were going to court, and now, I had witnesses, video, documents, and proof she was planning to steal utilities. This was no longer a neighbor dispute. This was full-blown war. The courtroom was small. Just 2 rows of benches. Neutral gray walls, beige carpet, fluorescent lights overhead. But it felt like a pressure cooker. I sat with my lawyer, calm on the outside, churning inside. Debbie walked in wearing an overdone business suit, holding a thick binder. No lawyer with her. She was representing herself. That should have been a red flag for her. The judge, an older woman with sharp eyes and a tired face, entered. Everyone stood. She got right to it. The judge. We are here to resolve a property dispute between my name and Debbie's full name regarding structure encroachment, permit fraud, and civil damages. Both parties are present. Let's begin. Debbie started off trying to act composed. She said the shed was built in the spirit of neighborly cooperation. She said I had given implied permission by not objecting strongly enough. She claimed I was harassing her because she was a single woman just trying to improve her life. My lawyer kept a straight face, but I saw his eyebrow twitch. Then it was our turn. We had everything. The original conversation log I wrote down. Photos of the shed frame, mid-build, and finished. Surveyor maps. The forged permit under my address. Facebook screenshots of the Airbnb listing. Camera footage of her trespassing. The letter from her own contractor. And the attempted smear campaign flyers. The judge didn't interrupt once. She just stared at Debbie with slowly narrowing eyes. Then she spoke. The judge. Ms. Debbie, are you aware that filing permit paperwork using a false address is not only grounds for immediate voiding of said permit, but also potentially a criminal offense? Debbie froze. The judge continued. And that telling Airbnb guests to enter through a property that is not yours exposes you to serious liability? What if someone had tripped? Been injured? Silence. The whole courtroom was dead quiet. Then the judge added. You even tried to file a protective order against this man while trespassing on his property, after painting your illegal structure to match his house. Debbie broke. I just wanted it to feel like a home. She blurted. Her voice cracked. I didn't mean to hurt anyone. The judge tilted her head. Then why not build it on your own land? I didn't have space. She whispered. I thought he wouldn't care. It's just a strip of grass. The judge turned to me. Do you have anything to say? I stood up. I kept it short. I tried to be kind. I gave her a chance to move it. She smiled and said it blended in. Then she lied. To the township. To the internet. To strangers staying in my yard. She made me the villain in a story I never wanted to be part of. The judge nodded. She flipped through her notes for a minute. Then she made her ruling. The verdict: Debbie was ordered to remove the shed within 30 days, at her own cost. She was to pay all legal fees related to the case. She was fined by the township for filing fraudulent permit paperwork. She was issued a formal restraining order, no contact, no trespass. The judge also referred her actions to the district attorney for review of potential criminal charges. Debbie didn't even speak as the judge laid it out. She just cried. Silent tears. Shoulders shaking. Not a single word. A week later, the contractor returned, not her original guy, but a clean-up crew. They tore down the shed in 2 days. Hauled it away piece by piece. Left a bare patch of crushed grass and a few broken stones where the base used to be. The day they finished, Debbie's "for sale" sign went up. Within a month, she was gone. No goodbye. No note. Just a moving truck early one morning and silence by afternoon. A few neighbors came by afterward. Some apologized for doubting me. Others admitted they didn't know what really happened until the ruling. My favorite was old Mr. Lanford across the street. He showed up with a cooler full of iced tea and just said, "Next time someone paints their shed like your house, tell him you charge rent." We laughed. First time I'd laughed in months. I still walk past that empty spot sometimes. The grass is growing back now. Slowly. I haven't decided if I'll plant something there or just leave it alone. Maybe I will. Maybe I won't. I've got motion lights, cameras, a fence, and better locks now. But more than that, I've got boundaries. Literal and personal. I learned that no matter how calm you try to stay, some people will take advantage of silence. They'll push past limits and claim you're overreacting when you say no. I learned that kindness needs a backbone. And I learned that a shed, painted the same color as your home, can still be completely out of place. I didn't want revenge. I wanted peace. But sometimes, to have peace, you have to stand in front of a judge and say, "That doesn't belong here." And sometimes, someone has to hear it, the hard way.